video, I'm going to explain to you how to use the KS7 iron sights. Now, this looks like a jumbled mess, but I'm going to go ahead and explain it. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I marked my KS7 sights, and then I'm going to show you where it goes in. And I gave it a little unique words just for the sake of this video, but I don't really have designated marked nomenclature for this. So here you have it. This is what it looks like throughout the different aiming points. So you have 7 yards, then you have about 15 yards right there. So these I call the back wings, the little back flaps. So I just colored them with like a fuchsia nail polish. Very high visibility, especially when you're concentrating on your threat. You'll be able to see this no problem. You'll be able to superimpose the green and fuchsia onto your target, and if you have to take a second in order to line them up, then sure, fine, whatever. But it's pretty intuitive to get into a good aiming posture, but it's not something you can do just without some kind of help, i.e. visual aid, other than the front sight. So the front sight is obviously green. You could get like a bright neon green nail polish, and that would probably help, but it could also confuse your eyes a little bit because it could also blend. So here I have the little the back riser, I guess you could say, because this little piece rises up and it sticks up. Now that is just really more of an alignment piece, so I would call that the alignment piece or the riser or whatever, but I'm calling these two pieces the back wings, and you could call them the rear sights, whatever. And this would be the range indicator. So this is the 24th rised rib. So you could call these little ribs up here, but the rised portion, it's the 24th one back from the front sight. And you could go with the 25th one, it doesn't really matter, but you see the 25th one would actually line up with this mark right here, as you see, and they would work pretty much the same as where this 24th one is. I just never change it because it's not really made enough of a difference to make a difference, at least for the type of shooting that I'm doing in the close quarters that I use a shotgun in, killing like feral animals and stuff like that around here. But anyways, in this picture here, these would be the back wings. So when you're actually aiming down the sights, all this is going to be a blur. So it's not going to look like a nice little line like you saw it here. It's actually just going to look like a fuzzy dot. And that is absolutely fine. Now, if you drew a line from one dot to the other, the middle piece on the ribs right here should actually be underneath this imaginary line if you're going to be shooting at about 7 yards. And the impact will be right there, right as it is. So it'll actually be point of aim, point of impact. That green arrow will actually point exactly where the impact will be, roughly speaking, depending on your range. Now, that's 7 yards. Now, for 15 yards, what you would be doing is now they would seem a little bit bigger because the green front sight is going to seem a lot smaller than this illustration. But the idea is, again, if you draw a line underneath the two winged pieces that are going to be in your peripheral vision, they're going to be all hazy. If you drew an imaginary line and you put it exactly at the bottom of the black piece that front sight is resting on right here, you see it has a little black riser that it sits on right here. If you put them like right there, then you have a good lineup for a 15-yard shot. But all the while you'll see that and it'll vary a little bit depending on your weapon and the type of loads you're using, but it's not going to be enough of a difference to make a difference. So the other thing is, this middle piece right here, though it was only really for the 7 yards, I called it the 7-yard stopper. So anywhere between this little marker right here and this piece right here, that was somewhere between 7 and 15 yards. So we would actually have an impact range anywhere between there of this much. So you could still aim at the chest, you could still aim at the head. In some cases, like for bear, it probably wouldn't make too much of a difference as long as you're in line. And as you can see here, I drew a straight line because the point of this piece is to make sure that you're aligned properly, but it is completely blacked out, or maybe you got an FTE or whatever, you got whatever pattern, but it's going to be hard to tell where that is in relation to the green sight. So if you can see that they're pretty well aligned, you know, you're pretty much good to go. Now, another thing that can help you gauge this and mark it on your own would actually to be getting the G-sight shotgun laser. Now, if you already have like a 40 caliber G-sight laser, you can actually unscrew the front and the batteries and just screw on the, you can just get the back adapter for the shotgun laser, the piece that just slips into the chamber, and you can actually test it out. And from my checks with slugs and everything, it works out very well. It aligns very well because it also has little stoppers, 4-point stoppers, to keep it nice and mechanically aligned, even though it doesn't go in too deep. So anyways, that's just a little tip, and I'll leave a link to G-Sight's website in the description. But this is how to use the KS7 sights. Unfortunately, KelTec didn't really, you know, do this. I think that they could have done a little bit better, but it is what it is. I can't really fault them. They did give us an aiming system. However, if I would say there was a way to improve it, if they're going to upgrade it kind of like they did the original KSG, instead of giving us a little riser here, why don't you just connect the polymer here and here? Might as well just connect it. I mean, this piece is actually pretty solid back here, but this piece, from me doing like transitions or whatever, I did chip off the front pieces of this sight. So I have used this shotgun a lot, you know, working on a lot of different shooting techniques and whatever. So it hasn't been getting babied, and I've used it a pretty good amount. So this isn't just coming from a vacuum. So anyways, try this out yourself. Figure out a good way to mark it, and just be very cognizant of where your little alignment piece is there, and to make sure that it's nice and centered. Find a way to find a stopper for it. Now, one last thing that I would say is if you really needed an aiming point, this little piece, you can actually see it on the sides. Like when you're aiming down, you can see this is a lot thicker, and it actually shines a little bit. If you line it up with your with the top of the green triangle, it actually will kind of act like a traditional pistol sight or whatever. It can do that, but you know, it's more for, you know, like 7 yards. But when you get out to like 15 yards, not really going to work all that well. But you know, you can give it a try, work with it, figure it out. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was somewhat helpful for you, or at least inspired you to get out there and try. Definitely get the KS7. It's a pretty awesome piece. I would just recommend taking it to a gunsmith or dremeling down the actual magazine tube yourself, between the magazine tube and where the barrel is, the top portion, because sometimes they can get caught there. That was one issue I had with the KS7, but definitely get one. They're a good price, and they are definitely worth the money, I think, even though you have to make that little correction. So anyways, I appreciate you guys watching. Hope to see you in another video, and you guys have a good one.